Good day, music lovers of the world. I'm Peter Scove, and this is Music as a Journey. I feel like it's been a little while since I've been here in front of the camera. It's actually been a couple of weeks. I was gone for about 6 days. If you've seen any of my much older videos, perhaps you've heard me mention it before, but previously anyway, I used to once a year go away for a TV program called Journeys in Japan. It's through NHK World, and NHK is like the BBC or CBC of Japan. So they have an international division, I guess, broadcasting division called NHK World, and there's a program on that called Journeys in Japan. And I used to appear in an episode once a year, but after COVID started, that all came to an end. However, I got a call, I got an email actually, asking if I could go away at the end of September, and so I did. Maybe I'll just show you a couple of my photos that I took here. We went to a place called Miyagawa, that's a river, Miya River. Anyway, in Mie Prefecture, I visited the Ise Shrine, which is one of the most famous and important shrines in Japan. It is the place where the top god, Amaterasu, is enshrined. Japanese, mythology anyway, folklore, lore, god lore, whatever. And went there, and then also went up into the canyon, going up into the mountains, which had lots of really great scenery. So that will be coming up in an episode on NHK World sometime, I don't know, probably at the end of October or beginning of November. When that comes around, I will post a video talking about that, and you'll be able to see it online. Like, they have a view on demand page, and for 1 year you can watch it anytime you like. So I'll notify everybody about that when that happens. So actually, I've got some video ideas I'm gearing up for. Like I said, I feel like I've been away for a bit, and these videos, the first 10 albums of a band, they've been a lot of fun to do, but I feel like I've got lots of other ideas I want to work on right now, and it's October. I was going to do the first 10 albums of Whitesnake, which is kind of interesting, but I've decided I'm going to put it off till next year. There are still some bands I didn't think to do this year that I'll wait to do next year, and I'll move Whitesnake off to next year as well. So I will do just one more band in November, because I want to free up October for doing some of these other things. So just as a kind of warm up to those things, I want to show you some of the CDs I've had coming in through the door, well, basically since near the end of August anyway, but this is in order of music style rather than order of when I received them. So first up, recently got the new Cryptopsy album. This was released, I think it was at the end of September, as Gomorrah Burns. Really terrific album. I'm finding I'm enjoying Cryptopsy's music. Every time I get a new CD of theirs and listen to it, I enjoy their music more. I really like Matt McGacky's vocals, and he has a difficult time because, the classic Cryptopsy album, the legendary Cryptopsy album, is None So Vile, and on that they had Lord Worm as the vocalist, and he was the original vocalist of the band and appeared on the first 2 albums, and then he left and he came back and appeared on 1 album, and then after that they decided they would reinvent the Cryptopsy sound, and they went in a kind of more deathcore direction, and for that album Matt McGacky was the new singer, and fans hated it. They got so much flack for that album. Recently I've heard people saying it's a bad album, it's a strange one as a Cryptopsy album. So after that they kind of went back to being a brutal technical death metal band with a self-titled album, and that was around 2011 or something, and then they released 2 EPs after that, The Book of Suffering Tome 1 and Tome 2, and then there was just, again, like several years gap before this album finally came out. So I think it's something like 11 years between full-length albums, but here it is, and it's great. I've heard a lot of really positive reviews about it. I really like it. I probably should talk about it more. I'll probably talk about Cryptopsy a little bit more, because I have one of the Tome albums on order, and I will then have all the kind of latest stuff. So maybe I'll talk about Cryptopsy a little bit later on down the road. Okay, another one here then. This is Archspire, another technical death metal band, but with a really unusual style. I've heard it described that the vocalist sings, or anyway vocalizes, in a way that is very percussive. So his vocalizations actually complement the percussion. And where Cryptopsy managed to get up to, I think it was like 320 beats per minute, these guys have gotten up to 400 beats per minute now. I think it's this what do they call it now? This gravity drop beating drum style. Like the drumstick comes down, hits the drum, they lower it, and as they bring the stick up, it hits the drum again. So it's like with each movement down, they get 2 beats, and then they do it very quickly. So it's like a brrrr kind of effect. Pretty cool. But anyway, this was their album. Actually, this one came out, I think it was actually 2 years ago now, and it won a Juno Award. So yeah, I'm kind of gearing up. I'm going to do, as I said before, a video on Canadian metal Juno Award albums that I have in my collection. There's a long story about that, so that's coming up in a video. And Archspire's album here is going to be mentioned in that one. Very cool stuff there, though. That's the tech death stuff. Then, probably the video that I'm going to be doing next, taking a look back at some of the old 80s thrash bands who released new albums recently. We have Overkill with Scorched. This album was released a little bit earlier this year, I think back in the spring. We have Exodus, Persona Non Grata. This was actually released 2 years ago, but it remains Exodus's most recent release. So I'll be talking about these albums in more detail in that video, which, I don't know, probably I'll do it like this weekend or something. And one other old thrash album here, or old thrash metal band with a new album, of course, Metallica, releasing 72 Seasons earlier this year. I'll talk a lot about that more in that other video, but just to let you know, I rather like this. I rather like this album. I don't like totally love it, but I rather like it. Okay, so revisiting old thrash metal bands. Then YouTube just surprised me one day when I opened it, and the top video recommendation for me was a guy on the YouTube channel Quest for Metal. He was ranking his favorite first wave death metal albums, and I have a bit of experience with first wave death metal, at least in 2 periods in my musical journey, and so now I was drawn into it yet again. So I picked up this one here, Day of Wrath by Bulldozer, and as I mentioned, I think a little while back, I also picked up Sabbath and Venom, their debut album, a Japanese black metal, first wave black metal band, and Italian one here. So I'm adding a little bit more to my first wave black metal collection, and I'm going to do a probably fairly long video talking about that. Then Steve at All the World's a Stage, he does this series on 5 years in a band, and he picks what he feels are the 5 best years, where the best output came out. And one of his videos was about Thin Lizzy, and he covered 6 studio albums and a live album. Now, I have a couple of Thin Lizzy albums. I like them. Some of the songs I think are quite good. Some of the songs don't really do anything for me, but I was always thinking I should probably check out Thin Lizzy a little bit more. So watching Steve's video inspired me. The 6 studio albums he talked about, I only had 2 of them, so I thought maybe I'll check out 1 or 2 more. The pricing for the CDs on Amazon was actually quite reasonable. Almost half of what a lot of the newer releases are. So I picked up Johnny the Fox and the Black Rose one here. What's the full title? It just says Black Rose on the side. Anyway, picked up those 2. The timing is a little bit off because what I'm really interested in hearing now is more like this brutal technical death metal, this like modern day, old band, modern day thrash metal albums. There's another band that's coming up next I'm also really interested in hearing right now. So these albums came, I listened to them once, I thought, alright, and then I started listening to this one the other day, and I just felt the production was not so clean or clear. Well, it is also a late 70s album, and I'd just been listening to some with really clear production, so I think it was the wrong timing, so I've actually stopped listening to these. I will listen to these with the other Thin Lizzy albums a little bit later on when I've got the kind of space in my brain for that. So, Thin Lizzy. And then The very last video I did, the most recent one I did, was the first 10 albums of April Wine. And April Wine is a band I keep going back to and listening to, and each time I find more things I like about their music. So I thought maybe I should try to fill up the rest of my April Wine collection. So I finally ordered Attitude, which was their kind of a regrouping album after they'd been apart for a few years, or several years. I'm going to do a video probably talking about the last few albums of April Wine as well. I'm thinking to do a ranking the albums of April Wine with my own opinion, because I've recently been watching some ranking videos and I think I can do this myself. So anyway, Attitude, April Wine, and then what they released a year later is Frigate. Now this one was one I had been thinking to get for years, actually both of them, and then this one is still available, but this one, suddenly it's like really hard to get a hold of. So I managed to find, I think it was here in Japan? Yeah, here in Japan. Somebody was selling it on a, I don't know, Yahoo auction or something like that. Yahoo online flea market, whatever. So managed to get a hold of it. So that means the only April Wine studio album I don't have is Walking Through Fire, which I'm sure the songs are good. I'm sure the guitars are good, I'm sure the vocals are good, but I've listened to it a little bit on YouTube, and what I don't like is that 80s production, the 80s drum sound. It sounds like balloons popping when they hit the snare drum, and all this like unnecessary synthesizer jammed in there that's like blocking the guitars. Anyway, it's the only album I don't have, and if I'm going to be a completionist, I might get it, but I don't know if I really want to buy an album that's going to disappoint me, that I know will disappoint me. But anyway, speaking of April Wine, they have a couple of albums out there with some previously unreleased material. One of them, it's material from the Forever For Now recording session period, I think, which means it's not April Wine hard rock songs. It's some of their kind of more experimental stuff, and I listened to them on YouTube, and of the 4 songs that appear on this one kind of best of compilation for previously unreleased tracks, there's only one of them I really felt that I would want to listen to, and the rest of the compilation album is not so interesting. Like, I think there's other compilation albums with a better selection of songs, but I did check out this here. This is Greatest Hits Live 2003. And I'm not such a big fan of live albums, but there are 2 previously unreleased studio tracks at the end. And one of them I could hear on YouTube, and it was really very, very good. And the other one I could only hear a live version, a very poor quality live version. But I thought, okay, yeah, let me take a look around. And of course this album was super expensive on Amazon. It was expensive, even if it was not so expensive, Discogs, the shipping is expensive. But again, on a flea market in Japan, online flea market, I found somebody selling it for a little bit high. But then I had some coupon and I had some points, and so I was able to bring the price down to the reasonable level. And so it just, arrived in the mail today, so I haven't had a chance to listen to it yet at all. But 2 discs, live songs, and then finishing with 2 previously unreleased tracks. So there we go. Okay, I do actually have other new stuff that hasn't arrived yet. However, if I wait for that, it's going to be almost like the end of October, so this is sticking everywhere. So yeah, that's what I've got so far. The rest of the new stuff that's coming in is going to appear in those other videos. So, you'll just hear me talking about them then. So that's it. That's my little update on what's been happening and what's been coming through the door and what I'm thinking of doing over the next month or so. So that's it. Yeah, we'll see if I can get that old like 80s heavy metal bands doing new albums video up probably early in the week then. So check out that one if you will. Oh, and you know what? Secretly, when I wasn't looking, we got up to over 900 subscribers. Wow. Thanks everyone. Thank you. All right, catch you in the next video, folks. Bye.